always wanted the Army. First I wanted the Marines, and then they said go to see Navy. And I ended up in the Army, and that was it. I was drafted. When I went to sign up, because my mother wouldn't sign for me to join. And as soon as I became 18, I went to the draft board and I told them I want to go to the next bunch. And I did. And I graduated school in 1943, high school. And that's when I went into the Army. As soon as I went in the Army, went over, had my basic and all that. And ended up on Queen Mary, going over to Scotland. From Scotland down to Southampton, I think goes to someplace in England. From there to Le Havre. From Le Havre to Belgium and Germany, and then Czechoslovakia. I was with the artillery. I went over as infantry. And finally, when I got over there, replacement depot, they put me in the artillery. And then I ended up in artillery, and that's where we ended up in Czechoslovakia. I remember getting sworn in and everything at Fort Dix, New Jersey. And yeah, I remember that. It was a privilege and an honor. She was always writing me, giving me the local information and everything. And I know her prayers helped me a lot. I wanted to mention that I also served during the Cold War, and that was the war between, the supposed war between Russia and the United States. And then we were on the verge of that. And then after that, I went for occupation in Nuremberg. And I saw a couple of the war criminal trials there with Goering and Hess and Yodel and the rest of them. And it was an exciting piece of work there. Otherwise, after that, I got discharged. And then I went to work. 9 years, 2 months, and 26 days. And I never regretted a day I was there. Once I got out of the service, I got a job with Brinks Incorporated, the armored truck outfit. And I said, well, the fellow that got me the job, I said, well, I'll stay here until I find something better. And I was there for 30 years. And then I retired from there, and I got a job with Macy's Security. And I stayed with them for 9 years. Then I retired for good. I was married to my wife 41 years, and she passed away with cancer. But that 41 years was the best years of my life. A very joyful 91 years, except during the Depression, but that's where I learned to eat. When all I got was stew every week, every day. And one night I says, I quit eating. My mother says, okay. So about 8 o'clock at night, I says, Mom, what do you got to eat? I'm hungry. She says, okay. Out came the stew, and that's how I learned to eat. Service made me appreciate life. And I never gave up my religion, Catholic religion. I still go to the Mass we have here. But I had a good 91 years of life. I gotta say that. I'm satisfied, and I never meant to hurt anybody or talk about him or anything, because I knew it would always bounce back to me. But I appreciate everything.
I was 18 the day the draft law expired, so I had to register for the draft for World War II. And that's when all us guys, 6 of us, decided we would just go and join the Army. We all wanted to be paratroopers. None of us made it. But we all did spend our time in the service. I spent most went to Fort Hays, Columbus, Camp Atterbury, Indiana, Fort Knox, Kentucky, took field artillery basic, and then went to Los Alamos. You don't particularly care to write letters, you don't do it too often. But anyway, I get called into the headquarters one day, and the lieutenant said, "Sykes, when's the last time you wrote your mother?" And I'm trying to think, and he said, "You will write your mother every week. And if you don't, you'll be back in this office. And you don't want to be back in this office again." I'm used to being raised with a big family, and you all had chores, and as you grew up, you went from one job to the other. But no, the Army was not that different to me, because I was used to doing what I was told. And but it's different in your restrictions on time. They tell you when, where, and why. I spent 38 years with American Electric Power, stationary steam engineer and a master mechanic. But while I was there, this young lady happened to be working in the office. And one evening, we had a unit out, and we worked over. So the 3 guys I was riding with said, "Let's stop the Floravilla and cash our checks." Well, Floravilla was owned by her mother and father, and she worked there in the evenings. So I happened to have 2 tickets to the Harlem Globetrotters for Saturday night, and this was Thursday. And I says to her while she's waiting, "How'd you like to go see the Harlem Globetrotters with me Saturday night?" I had seen her in the plant, but I'd never talked to her before. And the bell rings, so she goes back, and I find out a year later, she says to her mother, "I'd like to go out with him. But this is Thursday night, and if he's got 2 tickets, somebody must have turned him down, and I'm not playing second fiddle to anybody." And I never heard anything like that before. But she had a wise mother. Her mother says, "Tell him you'll take a rain check if you'd like to go out with him." That's what she told me. I can't go Saturday, but I'll take a rain. Been married 60 years, September the 7th. And for an old bachelor, 29 years old, thought he'd never get married. That's pretty good. Well, I think everybody at high school age ought to have a year in the service. I think you learn more there than you did in the 4 years of high school. I can tell you that. It's a very good experience. And then everybody should be fortunate enough to find somebody like I did.
I enlisted in the Air Force. One reason, because I didn't think there'd be a chance for me to go to Vietnam. Well, best laid plans, mice and men. Nobody knows what they're gonna do. While I was in attendance there, they took our police school class down to, they have one of the military working dog training centers at Lackland. There's 3 of them. They took us down for a demonstration. They were showing us the dogs that were graduating and the handlers that were graduating with them. When the demonstration was over, the NCO comes up and says, "Which of you would like to work one of these dogs?" Well, against all things I was told to do in the military, one was do not volunteer. And I raised my hand along with a couple other guys, and we volunteered to go handle the dogs. We didn't know at the time that those dogs were a hot ticket to Vietnam. And when the school ended, they assigned us, the both of us, to go to Massachusetts, to Cape Cod, to Otis Air Force Base. We got there in the summer of '67, the year the Boston Red Sox were going crazy. And then it started to get chilly. And then it got downright cold. It was the coldest place I've ever been in a long time. One day to troop on down to the base operations, we walked in and they asked us what they could do for us. And we said, we'd like to transfer out of here. And the clerk said, where would you guys want to transfer to? Well, we'd like to transfer to Vietnam. And she looked at us like we were crazy. And basically we were. It was a good experience. I wouldn't trade it. I'd do it again. I'm like a lot of veterans from Vietnam. They said they've been asked if they'd do it again if they had to. And I'd do it again. It was something I believed in. I served 4 years in the Air Force. And the first dog, Tina, X768 was her tattoo number. Each one of the dogs was tattooed in their right ear as an identification mark, sort of like the dog tag. When the dog alerted, the handler paid attention. We had a saying, trust your dog. And everybody did, because a lot of the guys thought they are very glad they handled. They said, because of that dog, I came back to the United States. I came home. A handler that handled in the Army, he said, he made a comment that sticks with me. He said, most of the guys who handled in Vietnam can remember their dog. They can't remember their wedding anniversary or anything like that, but they'll remember their dog's name and tattoo number. I found out that while we were over there, the Viet Cong had put a bounty out on the dogs. That's how successful the dogs were. They put a bounty on the dog's ear with the tattoo, and a bounty, and part of the bounty was included the handler's dog tags. They were part of the proof that they had met this team and taken them out. And we kid about it now. So we were wanted back then. Somebody wanted us. This one Marine, big guy, said, I owe my butt to a dog. He said, we were on patrol and the handler told us to stop, that we were, and the dog had alerted that there was something up ahead. And he says, sure as heck there was. The Viet Cong had set up an ambush and the dog had alerted, and we were able to eliminate the ambush. But I came home and got married, and there were two daughters. The youngest one spent 12 years in the Marine Corps, and had a picture on her workstation at Lejeune. She had a picture of me and Geisha. She said she had a couple of NCOs, career NCOs, ask her who was in the picture and where. My daughter was so proud. She says, that's my dad, and that picture's taken in Vietnam.